Hey, welcome to the Youngblood podcast. I couldn't help but clap there. I was so excited. Welcome to the Youngblood podcast. My name is Joshua Clifton, and I'm with my friend James Motter, Millennial Trash.
Hello.
How are you doing, man?
Super duper. Thanks for having me.
So, just because we didn't talk about this at all,
No.
do you go by James Motter while as Millennial Trash, or do you get called Millennial Trash?
Mr.
Trash.
When I'm on stage, I always say, "Hi, my name is James, and I produce music under the name Millennial Trash. Here's some dope beats," and then just whatever.
Awesome.
From there. So
there
that way,
you
like,
go.
it's not weird because usually, like, the shows are very compact and people want to come and talk to you and stuff.
Yeah.
So if they just know your name, that's easier.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So there's the answer.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here, man. We've known each other for probably over 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
Longer than that.
No, it's
right?
pre-panty, bro.
Yeah,
Pre-panty. Yeah. At least
Wow.
2019.
Yeah,
It's been
that's
at least
crazy.
4 years. Yeah.
And so I'm such a bad friend because I've yet to see you, Millennial Trash, play. But if there's a tagline for this podcast, the Youngblood podcast, it is music that inspires the musicians or artists that inspires today. So at some point in your life, you had to have had a moment that you wanted to be more than a listener. You wanted to participate
Right.
in the creating of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just love it.
Right.
A lot of people get caught up in it. A lot of people love letting an American folk song, sweep them and make them think about, baseball or or they make you think about that song you danced with that girl one time,
Totally.
But there's something different from that where we go, I want to do what they're doing. I want to create. Do you remember that first moment for you?
Yeah, it was kind of like a homologation of a whole bunch of things.
That is an awesome word.
It's car culture. We can talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But
You
yeah,
said, wait, real quick, because I heard, whether it was wrong or right,
homologation.
Homologation.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So whenever the Apple stores kind of started popping up, like in all the various malls and stuff.
Yeah.
I always liked kind of messing with computers and stuff anyways, and there was a whole store filled with computers.
Yeah.
So I would go in and just kind of like mess around in like the little, I think they had like that, I forget what app it was called. Oh, Photo Booth. Remember when you go in and it had all the different like black and white filters and the fisheye lens? And
that
like
was
all
the
fun
first time
stuff?
we all became photo editors.
Yeah. Back in MySpace days.
Yeah.
But all the Macs in the Apple stores all had GarageBand on them.
Yeah.
And so one day I just clicked on it as like kind of what's that program looking thing? And then I found out it was like how people edit music and stuff. And then Apple had like a whole bunch of loops just already pre-programmed.
It was crazy how good of a program that was, right?
Right,
And how
especially for
kind
the
of-
time.
How kind of led you into figuring it out pretty easily.
Totally, because it was just click and drag. That's all
Right.
you had to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of understand that.
Yeah.
How old were you when this was happening?
This was like, I remember some high school kids when I was in middle school, they all had MacBooks. And so I kind of saw them messing with it a little bit. So it was probably about 7th or 8th grade for me, somewhere in there.
Seventh or
That I
eighth
started
grade,
like
so you're like 12,
discovering
13.
it. Yeah.
Maybe even 14.
Yeah.
Do you remember what music you were kind of listening to at that time?
Yeah, so
Like, what was in that?
middle school was the metalcore phase for sure.
Metalcore.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh.
Like
Were you playing any instruments at this time?
So yeah, I've played keys since I was 5 because
Okay, so let's back up there real quick.
Sure, yeah.
5 years old, you're
Yeah.
playing keys.
Yeah.
What were you learning? Was it church stuff?
No, it was just my mom.
A lot of people grow up in church and play
Right.
music,
Well, I did
so
too, but it wasn't. My mom wasn't ever really a church musician. She was just. She had always played piano since she was a kid.
That's awesome.
And so she wanted to toy with the idea of teaching kids how to play piano, and I was the kid in the house. So I was the
That's
guinea
rad.
pig, and then I had a couple friends that she taught to, but I mean, she's still teaching today, and she has like almost 30 students now or something crazy.
So keys were the first.
Yeah, keys were the first, and I played that consistently till I was about 10 or 11. And
Okay,
then
in that 5 years, what music were you listening to? What was your first big record that you go, oh my gosh?
the first one that man, like I remember going to Mardell as a kid and hearing there was something sonically really nice about Sonic Flood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Sonic
the
Flood.
I want to know you, I want to hear your
That's
voice.
right.
That thing and the
They had like
mix
a
on
pink,
that. Yeah,
cover?
the pink cover, the dude drowning.
Passion or something?
I think so. I don't know. I didn't read into it too much as a kid.
Yeah, you're right.
But my friend John at the time, he was like, dude, you got to check out this band. And he played me the I Want to Know You track. And it's super almost like Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, pop.
Yeah, very,
Jim
very
Blossoms,
poppy.
kind of
Right.
90s. Yeah, I get you.
And that sound really stuck with me. So that was kind of a cool one where it was the first time I heard a record where I was like, the mix on this sounds crazy. Because up until that point, it was like, I kind of listened to Avalon or Petra or, kind of the more old school Christian music and stuff like Point of Grace, For Him, Phillips Craig and Dean.
I think a lot of us went through those stages too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I did. I listened to a lot of like Carmen. You remember Carmen?
I
dude?
remember Carmen, dude.
Dude.
I think I was talking with Johnny
That
about it
dude
the other day
beat
about
up
the
the
music
devil
videos.
so many times.
Yeah, the music videos were crazy for that guy.
Man, that guy recently passed away or something.
Yeah.
He was great. I will tell you this, like I don't know him at all, but like, man, as a young kid, he was something. He was theatrical.
Dude, he was the Zorro of Christian music.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he played. You never knew what kind of record he was going to come out with.
Right. Yeah.
Like he was
rad.
like a hip hop record, or it was going to be this Western record.
Yeah.
But he always beat up the devil.
But yeah, dude, that Sonic Flood record was super rad. And then when I was in 4th grade, I was in study hall I was a homeschooled co-op kid.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So at this homeschooled co-op, there weren't like a whole bunch of kids at the time, and there still really aren't. It's not like a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
But I had study hall, and I was there with the middle and the high school kids. And the middle school kids were always like talking and being obnoxious because they're in freaking middle school. But then the high school kids would just kind of like chill by themselves and like actually do the homework.
Right.
And there was a dude in there that had a portable CD player and like the old cans, and he would just sit there, listen to music, and do his math. And they were the kind of cans that like they kind of leaked a little bit.
Yeah.
The sound leaked out.
Uh-huh.
And there was one day I was sitting next to him, and there was just like screaming coming from his headphones. I'm like, what on earth are you listening to? And he's like, oh, this is Haste the Day.
Haste the Day.
Yeah. And it was
I got a lot of you guys.
It was the first record. I think it was their first record with the chick on it with the mascara kind of crying a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then he played me Blue 42, and I was like, oh my God, this is so sick. And then from there, he was like, oh yeah, and check this out. This is Pantera, because Pantera wrote a song for SpongeBob back in the day.
That is awesome.
Which I think it was the pre-hibernation season episode where Sandy wants to get through all of the extreme sports she wants to do before she has to go to sleep for a bunch of months.
Yeah.
And Pantera did the music for that episode. We had it on CD, and he let me borrow it so I could put it on the family computer. But
that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You used to borrow CDs so you could store them on your computer.
Dude, the church library was like where
That is bonkers. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, you'd go rent out a CD from the church library. You'd go put it on your desktop. You bring it back the next week, and then you had the album.
That's rad. I forgot about that. Man, we owe a lot of people a lot of money.
I know it.
We didn't know any better, though.
No. I mean, dude, no, it was like encouraged.
Right.
It was like you and your friend group, you were like, okay, who's got the Blink-182 album? Okay, cool.
I was like, you pick up that record, I'll get this record.
Right.
And we'll switch it up.
You could split it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
for
how we
sure.
did it.
So you hear Haste Today, you hear Pantera.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're going to go from piano to...
Yeah, so at about
else.
11, I was like, I do not want to play piano anymore, because I was just playing like, Fur Elise and Moonlight Sonata and just kind of stuff that it was not modern music whatsoever. And like, don't get me wrong, like playing that stuff on piano in the right way is great, but when you're a 10-year-old who just has attention problems.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really focus enough to make it click and work and be, you know, something cohesive as to what the
Right.
original artist wanted. So it was that Christmas for I was 11. I wanted an electric guitar, and my parents got me an off-brand Strat. It was purple. I still have it.
Awesome.
It does not work. There's many things wrong with
That's
it, but
awesome.
it's been signed by The Wedding and Cutlass, which is super cool.
Dude,
I literally took it to
that's
their
great.
shows. I was like, "Can you sign my guitar?"
Please.
But yeah, it's super rad. It's
What's your favorite wedding record?
the first one
That very first one, the one that had
with Move the City.
oh, that ba-na,
Yeah.
ba-na.
Whoa.
Wow, that song go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a catchy song,
Dude, so I remember it came on Power FM, and it was like
Yeah.
them and Sub 7. Those were my two. Like I would call in and request for those two songs like a lot.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super fun.
The wedding's great. I remember getting onto them for that record, but I always loved that Polarity record too.
Oh,
that
so
next
good.
record. was so good.
Listen. Their first record's here for me. The rest of their
Yeah.
stuff is here for me.
I
You
get
know
it.
what I mean?
I get
it's
it.
just the first one had that real pop punky swag
You like Kevin
to it.
too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's great. He's great. So is Matt. But Kevin was also on Polarity. Kevin was, it's great. That's such a good record.
Yeah, dude.
And then you said Sub 7. Power FM, that was a big deal
Dude, for sure.
for you guys here growing up in Dallas.
Yeah.
Like they were probably a really good place to find good music.
Well, they were just everywhere too. Like whenever there would be like a show at Six Flags, you
Yeah.
know, like during that, like the first show I saw there was 1,000 Foot Crutch opening up for Third Day. And, you know, it was just kind of like, okay, the kids get something and then the parents get something a little bit.
That's great.
But Power FM hosted all of those. And,
That's so cool.
You know, you also, as a kid, you got to see your radio voice people like in the flesh.
Right.
And that was super cool.
Yeah, they were my first foray, or I don't know. They were the first people that brought us, my band Ravenhill, into
Really?
Dallas.
I had no idea, dude.
Yeah,
That's super
and
cool.
then I would call in and do interviews with them.
That's
when I
rad.
lived in Nashville. It was one of the reasons I was like, oh, well, it was before it went away. We were just about to start moving here whenever it went away.
Gotcha.
I was kind of bummed out about that because I was thinking it'd be so cool to come to Dallas and then maybe because my first job was in a radio station, so
cool.
like interning and so I always thought that like maybe if I came here, I didn't know their budget, but I was like maybe I could do an hour or two. Like
Yeah.
they would let me go in there, just have like let me pick the music to play. I just thought that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But this isn't about me, it's about you. So about that time you said you're about 15 here? Are you about
No, this was 11.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You are 11?
Yeah, so 11 I got the electric guitar, and then I did that for a little bit. I got it like in the middle of 5th grade.
Okay.
And then throughout middle school is kind of where, you know, you branch out a bit, you make some new
Right.
friends, and
Yeah.
that's when I met this dude named Ryan Prim, super dope guy. He plays up at
Yeah, I know.
1132.
I know him, man. He's a good dude.
Super-
Great drummer.
Oh my god, killer, bro.
That dude's next level.
And dude, I cannot for the life of me remember how we met. I want to say it was through baseball. It was either baseball or skateboarding. It was one of the two. But yeah, so we hung out a bunch in middle school. Like a lot of cool stuff happened like between us in middle school too. It was like the Xbox 360 came out and his brother got it, and we'd go over and play like Gears of War and stuff together. And
Yeah.
super fun. But I went over to his place one time. It was like one of the first times we hung out. And he was like, dude, I got a drum set. You should bring your guitar. And I was like, freak yeah, dude. Okay, let's jam.
That's
like
awesome.
I'd never gotten to jam with anyone before. I was like, I had my knockoff Strat and I plugged it into a karaoke machine and I turned the volume all the way up so it distorted.
I feel like I've done that too.
Yeah, and it
Like
actually
a
didn't sound
karaoke.
bad.
Yeah. You got something out of you. I think this is going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everything's going to be okay.
So yeah, I went over there, and then at some point he was like, "Yo, we should switch. You hop on drums, I'll hop on guitar." And I was like, "I don't know how the drums work at all."
Yeah,
Like,
you've never been behind really been behind the drum set.
No, like one of my cousin played drums a little bit, and I sat behind his kit when I was like 6. But I was 6, so I couldn't reach anything, you know?
Right.
So this is the first time, like, I'd sat down behind a kit, and, you know, the first time you sit behind a kit, it's so awkward, and you just, your motor skills are just not there.
Right.
But there was something about it that just clicked with me.
Yeah.
It didn't click with the keys, it didn't click with the guitar, but it clicked with drums for some reason. So I held on to that kind of vibe in the back of my head.
Like,
and even like the way that I would play guitar, this is a very boomer thing to say, but I'm more of a rhythm guy. But like,
is that a boomer thing to say?
Yeah.
That's crazy because I've said that. And I didn't know it was a boomer thing to say.
No, but you know what I mean. It's just like if you walk into a Guitar Center, the person who says that's probably 55.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know,
I don't go to. Yeah, never mind. That's a whole nother conversation. That's an interesting. Yeah.
It's just an observation that
I get you though,
made.
but I am also just a rhythm guy.
Right, but like for me, that is more of like a mindset rather than like a style in the way you play.
Yeah,
because it's
that's
like
true.
you have bands kind of like the 1975 who, you know, most of their guitar playing and bass playing and stuff like that is rhythmic to the beat, and there's not really like a lead guitar tone. It's like a homologation of a whole bunch of cool guitar parts.
I'm loving that.
Keeping that rhythm going, and that's what I stick to. So the drums just I kind of gravitated towards, and then for my Sweet 16 birthday is when I got my first drum set.
That's awesome. So were you when you got that drum set? Were you? And you and Ryan were jamming.
So what happened was Ryan was homeschooled in middle school, and then he went to public school in high school. So as soon as he went to high school, I stayed homeschooled, and he went to public school. So our schedules just never really meshed. Yeah. So it's just like we hung out still.
So you
but
never
just
played in a band together? Or
no.
that?
We were just buddies, and like I'd go swim at his place. He'd come over for.
But he lit that
skateboard
fire.
And youth group.
He kind of put.
Oh
that,
yeah, for sure, dude.
And
it
you
was
were like, I'm taking that with.
Yeah, and also like, dude, his kit was so rad. Like I remember he got like this Dark K Crash or whatever for Christmas one year. We were in middle school, we were freaking out that he had like a K series Zildjian. Yeah, he would crank his snare all the way up so it sounded like the PAX 217, just you know, like that crack.
Yeah, that's super so gnarly. PAX 217.
Yeah, best snare tone in the game.
Really,
for sure.
Who's their drummer?
Squid Kid. He drummed for Hawk Nelson's second record and on for a little bit. But yeah, he was. There was some relation to him and someone else in PAX 217, I think, but I can't remember if it was like the vocalist or maybe. I don't know. Was it
Aaron Tosti?
I don't know. The last time I looked up what he was doing, he's doing photography stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, rest in peace, PAX 217. Yeah. Y'all some real ones for being in Extreme Days too, man. That's crazy.
I never saw that movie.
Oh my god.
I know. I think everybody.
Do you have a hard copy of that, Johnny? Okay. Yeah. We need to, dude. That's what we need to do for your movie podcast.
Mm-hmm. You haven't seen Extreme Days.
Oh man, I've seen it probably 200 times.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I dude, in middle school.
This would be about this time in your life too that we're talking about.
Yeah. Literally, man, I would watch it every time that. So, like, my days were pretty structured as a kid because just. I was an unstructured kid, so I needed the structure. So I got a half hour to eat lunch every day.
I think that's all of us, buddy.
Yeah. I finally found my people. Yeah. But during that half hour, Extreme Days is 90 minutes, so every 3 days I'd just restart it, and I would just keep it in the machine and just keep it playing.
So you can. My hot pocket. That's the one you know.
Oh,
word for word. You know that every door shut. You know that
every fart lit, bro. Yeah. Just everything.
Yeah. Mine's Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's great. Okay, so you're, at this point, you have your 16th birthday. You got this drum set.
Yeah, so.
What is spinning in your CD player? Or do you have an iPod yet?
So, yeah, so the iPod.
You have a Zune?
I wish, dude. My best friend growing up, shout out Eric Salvatore. Eric Salvatore. He got a freaking brown Zune, bro. And if you got a brown Zune, that's the elite color.
Oh, really?
Oh, to me it was. Because, like, everybody was getting the black ones, or, like, they had, like, a lime green one and stuff like that. But, like, if you had the brown Zune, you chose that.
Why did the iPod win over Zunes?
You know,
why did that?
I think it was just the bulkiness of it, to be honest with you. Which, because if you remember back in the day, the Razr was the coolest phone.
Yeah.
And that was the super thin one. And the iPod kind of went along with it a little bit. And so like having a Zune in your pocket was like, oh, my dad has a BlackBerry, that kind of thing.
I had a BlackBerry for a second too.
Jesus, Josh.
I know, man.
Don't say things like that.
I know. I don't even know why I do. I thought it made me look professional.
It probably did.
No, it wasn't. I owned a music venue at that time, and I remember the last day I had a BlackBerry. I went up there to make sure that everything was cool. The bands got paid and everything. And
Look at you, dude.
And
Good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Crushing it.
I loved owning a music venue. It was so much fun.
Heck yeah.
Being able to take care of bands and stuff. Hopefully one day we'll do it again. Anyway, I remember getting out of my car, and I guess my phone fell on the ground. And so we always had kids skateboarding out front, and it was great and everything. Well, apparently some kids saw it and just threw it up against the brick wall. And I go, what is this? He goes, that dude just threw your phone up against the wall. I was like, did you tell him it was mine? He goes, no. And I go, all right.
Typical
cool.
kiddo fashion, bro.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I went and bought an iPhone. Changed my life.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there. Hey,
talking about Zunes, bro.
Zunes,
yeah.
man. Zunes for sure. I'm surprised those didn't win. Those were cool.
They were really cool. But yeah, we were talking about like what I was listening to in 16-ish
16.
time frame. So about that time frame, I had my own iPod. Up until that point, we had like the family iPod with like the 4 buttons on top and the scroll wheel, and they lit up red.
Yes.
Those were my favorite iPod generation. It was so cool. It looked like a Knight Rider kind of thing.
I liked having the separate iPhone and iPod. For a while, I had that.
Totally.
I liked that.
I feel like it allowed you to kind of not have to be checked in on your phone while you're listening to music. It let you just.
It was like,
only
we're doing
do that.
this now.
Yeah. And even when podcasts became available, like no one really put podcasts on an iPod.
Right.
They really took off whenever the phones came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I did was I was syncing my iPod up to iTunes, and I didn't really have that much money, so I wasn't buying a lot of music.
Right.
So I found this little switch on iTunes where you could basically turn your iPod into a hard drive. So if you click that one button, any computer can access it, and you can just plug it into whatever and put whatever you want on it. So I took my iPod, I factory reset it, and I gave it to Eric, and I was like, do your worst. Like, literally put whatever on here.
Eric Salvatore!
And up until that point, I had really only listened to, like, Christian metalcore.
Yeah.
So, like, there was Haste the Day, Devil Wears Prada. I also got into, like, Mortal Treason and, like, Indwelling and Impending Doom and some of the, like, more, like, sludgier stuff, I guess. But there was no, like, secular voice coming in to my life at all. Which, at that point in my life, I'm glad that there wasn't, but I'm also glad that I found it when I did. And so Eric took my iPod.
So you're saying like there was no, you were kind of in a Christian bubble at this time.
Right. Really, the only outside music I listened to was from either Tony Hawk games or
great source for
phenomenal
great music,
stuff.
isn't it?
Oh my god!
Oh
yeah.
man, we could have a whole podcast.
Dude,
of just
at some of my previous jobs, that's what I would put on the radio when we'd all just be working and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just boom, Tony Hawk music. Boom, there you go.
That's so good.
So yeah, it was like that, and then like skate videos. So like there'd be a little. Like a dabble of hip hop, but it would be like, like 90s boom bap stuff. It wouldn't be like trap or, anything like that.
Right.
So, yeah, that was kind of it. And so I gave my iPod to him, and then he came back to me, and it was all 8 gigs, bro.
Yeah.
All 8 gigs.
All 8 gigs.
All 8
Busted.
gigs. Fully loaded.
Busted.
And I remember
I hear that little fan going on. It's like whenever the 8 gigs is going, like we don't have more.
So I was scrolling on the scroll wheel. And I'm working my way past, Tetris and all the other things that I used to have on those. And then I saw Rage Against the Machine pop up. And I remembered that Rage Against the Machine's Guerrilla Radio was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2's intro song. And so I heard that, when I was like 7 or 8. And to me, it was just the intro song of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Right. And I never really put a name of the band to the song. And their whole discography was on my iPod. And I was just like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. And I would just mow my parents' lawn and listen to Rage Against the Machine.
You know how many records I fell in love with mowing a lawn?
So
Oh,
many,
dude.
dude. I bet. Here, name 2 right now.
Oh, I mean, I could name 48.
Cool.
I mean, like Dogwood. You remember that
Yeah,
band?
Building a Better Me,
Oh,
dude.
holy crap! That
So
record's
good.
so.
And
And it
the
goes
tone of the
scrape it.
vocals.
Yeah, dude.
Like I had never heard anything like
I'm
that as
so
a kid.
glad you know who Dogwood
Yeah,
is.
dude.
That's so
It
good.
was so right. Well, they were also in some motocross games. growing
Yeah,
up. So yeah.
That band was so good, dude. That More Than
Incredible.
Conquerors record is
Oh
so good.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of punk back in the day. I mean, ska too. I
Oh,
listened
yeah.
to Five Iron Frenzy. Did you ever listen to them?
Five Iron Frenzy was my favorite band as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that live record that
End
they
Is
came
Here?
out? Yes.
That was what I
that had
listened
all
to.
the bands, all the people's names on
Yeah.
the inside. I have 2 names in that.
Do you
My
really?
name is in there, and then Josh Fiasco.
Dude.
Because I was in a punk band called Fiasco.
I have that hard copy.
Yeah.
And I
My
have that.
name's in there.
I'm gonna go look for it when I get
Please
home.
do it.
But yeah, I listened to that album every night when I went to sleep from when it came out.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I heard from them was the Quantity is Job 1 EP.
Yeah.
And I heard it at Thunderbird Roller Rink
Okay.
during homeschool day. So there were like these 2 like middle high school kids that went, and they went to Eisenberg's.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they were like the Eisenberg's, for the listeners, was the cool Plano skate park back in the day.
Oh.
And so they were like into ska and like all that cool stuff. But they brought up the Quantity is Job 1 EP. And for homeschool day, you had to play Christian music, and the DJ at Thunderbird Roller Rink, surprisingly, did not have a lot of a Christian library to browse through.
That's weird.
So they brought up Quantity is Job 1, and they played it, and I went up to the DJ. I was like, who is this? It was My Evil Plan to Save the World, and I thought it was so cool.
That's great. Surprisingly, they had a lot of winger.
A lot of winger.
Winger. They had a lot of winger. You could play winger. You know the band Winger?
You're talking about Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Oh, I
whatever.
thought you were talking about Five Iron.
No.
I was like, what?
No.
Are you about to go into a story I don't know about?
No, Five Iron's great.
Five Iron's
Dude,
phenomenal.
That's so good.
I actually have a cool
Roller
little
Rink's
thing.
great.
Like, I remember being, I was 8 and just got a Nintendo 64 with Cruisin' World. And
I played that game.
dude, it's so good, right?
So good. 64
So-
was such a fun console, by the way.
Dude,
Go ahead.
It was amazing. Except the only thing was the ergonomics of the controller when you first picked it up. Every
Yeah.
single person I knew
had
held
to
it
learn it.
differently.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was like this way, this way,
I
this
feel like
way.
Eric wants to talk so badly about the Nintendo 64.
No, it's a great controller. Don't get me wrong, but like it's extremely confusing to someone who's probably never held a console thing before.
It was probably the most stark, differently
Yeah,
controller than any of them that's ever
because
came out, right?
PlayStation made sense. The
Yeah,
original,
right.
before the DualShock and everything like
Looked
that,
like the
it
bat
just
signal.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
it looked like
Yeah.
it made sense.
Yeah.
But the N64 was a little crazy.
It just had like a little thing.
Yeah.
Just okay.
So my babysitter was going to come over that night, and my babysitter was this super cool dude. I want to say his name was Matt. I'm blanking on his name, but
Mm-hmm.
he drove a freaking brand new Firebird with a V8 in it. It was red with black racing stripes, had the T-tops and everything.
God, we all
And-
need a Matt in our life, don't
Dude,
we?
he was so rad. So
Jeez.
he that night, he brought over 1080, the snowboard video game.
That game has such a good soundtrack.
So, and I still have his copy of it because he forgot it at my house, and he never babysat me again after this because he like went off to college or something. But anyways, we were playing 1080, and we had put a Red Baron in the oven, and totally forgot about it, and
Of
it
course.
burnt because we left it in there for
Yeah.
like 45 minutes, and so
Yeah,
he felt
chipped my
bad.
tooth
And he
on
was
the Red
like,
Baron.
"Did you really?
Yeah.
That's a okay. We're
Bummer.
gonna table that for a little later."
Yeah. It was a bad experience.
So
Yeah.
he felt bad, and he was like, "Well, there's a Sonic like right close by. You want to just go to Sonic and grab some food?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So the new Supertones record had just come out, and
Which one's this one?
This was Loud and Clear.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So Supertones Loud and Clear came out,
Uh-huh.
and I grabbed it out of my room.
Mm-hmm.
My parents basically like once a month they'd take me to Mardell, and they knew
Yeah.
that music was like super important to me, so they would let me pick out an album, and they would listen to it first to make sure it wasn't like super crazy because I was 8, you know.
Right.
But yeah, the Supertones, they love the Supertones because they were kind of happy and poppy and stuff.
Yeah, and borderline like worship music sometimes.
Yeah. Like,
you know,
as
like
once you got to like the 4th track on the record,
Yeah.
it was like worship.
they always
music.
had like 3 or 4 songs that were like, these are just ska up worship songs.
Yeah, and
But
it worked.
it was cool too,
Yeah.
man. I sang those in front of church.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
So I grabbed the CD and I hop in the passenger seat because it's the coupe, And
The Coop.
And so I looked down, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but he had like a parametric EQ, and he had subs in his trunk.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, I brought my Supertones album. Can we listen to this on the way? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he throws it in. And then he starts up his car, and it's also got like this crazy loud exhaust on it. I mean, it was a hot Firebird, dude.
Yes.
And the subs start bumping in the trunk, you know. You know what I'm talking about? Just like hearing that, and it's like hitting the back of the chair, and I'm like, this is so freaking cool. We're going to Sonic. I'm gonna get a milkshake and hanging with this dude. Like the car's loud, the music's loud. This is sick. So we go there.
What's your go-to, real quick, at Sonic? What, do you have a
milkshake wise or food wise?
Food wise.
Food wise,
we're gonna go both.
So I think Sonic breakfast is pretty underrated.
I think it's pretty great, dude.
I think it's pretty underrated. So I usually go for that croissant witch or whatever it's called.
Croissant witch.
Yeah, it's the sausage, egg, and cheese croissant, and then get some cheesy tots with it.
Yeah, you put the tots on
yeah,
the,
dude.
on the
Are you
sandwich?
kidding me? What are you talking about?
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Of course, you're not an idiot.
No.
God, I'm sorry. I even
Who are you
asked.
talking to?
Of course, we all do that.
So I do that.
There's one person going, holy crap.
Yeah, we just blew someone's mind
someone's
out
going,
there.
I'm going to put it. I can't wait till breakfast.
The chili tots on there is too much, just for your info.
Okay. That's too far.
I'm watching out
You
for
went too far.
Yeah.
we flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, definitely the Sonic breakfast for sure. But my go-to milkshake is the hot fudge shake.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't really have a shake there.
Oh, really?
Chocolate, banana chocolate.
Yeah. I highly
feel
recommend
like
the hot
that's
fudge
easy.
because it's a vanilla shake, but then they mix in the hot fudge they put on the sundae. And
Okay.
You get these little pockets of chocolate.
Oh, pockets of chocolate.
Yeah.
Man.
That's cool.
You're right.
And now a word from our sponsor, pockets of chocolate.
So you're into, we're at like 16, 17. You're here.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? Like,
So
when
this
do you
is
start
when I
playing?
joined my first band.
Okay.
So I had a buddy at my co-op named John Betton. He's a killer guitar player, still is. We don't talk as much anymore, but like his profile picture on Facebook's got him playing something with strings. So I'm like, good, you're still doing your thing.
You feel good whenever you know someone is good at something.
Right.
You want them to keep doing it.
And
even if it's not to the... I mean, there's so many people, if I had all the money in the world, I'd be paying them to do the thing I think they should. Right?
Right.
Yeah,
Totally.
if no one else would, but...
Yeah, Matthew would be scoring every movie known to man.
Exactly.
Every movie.
Yeah.
I
I'd be
wouldn't
like,
go see it if he wouldn't score it.
Of course he would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'd kill it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So this is when I joined my first band, John Betton. Killer guitar player, killer songwriter. I mean, he was like, we had never heard seventh chords before. So we were like, oh, dude, this is amazing. And like, he really did write some crazy, crazy good music. And so we start jamming and stuff like that a little bit. And then he calls me up one day. I'm at martial arts class, like about to walk in, and he calls me. He's like, hey, there's this battle of the bands that I really want to sign us up for. We'd play in front of like 300 people, and it's in Plano. And I was like, dude, that sounds so cool. Like, let's freaking do it. So he signed us up, and it was at the Door in Plano.
Awesome.
And so that was my first ever gig, was playing with him. And then we also had another guitar player. His name was Nick. We didn't have a bass player. Nick Reynolds. Shout out Nick Reynolds. Drove a red Miata throughout.
Nick Reynolds!
Driving Miatas.
Driving red Miatas!
Yeah, it was so funny because it would be him and John in the Miata with all their guitars and amps.
Oh,
and
man, we've all done that,
It was
too.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I had my drums in my Honda Accord at the time. So,
Right.
like, you know, it's a little smaller.
That caravan to the first couple of shows.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I was at martial arts, and he called me, and we did that. And after that first battle of the bands went well, we passed on to the second round, which was at the one in Dallas.
What'd you do? What'd you play?
Just original music.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we did that, and then to break up.
What was the name of your band?
So the first name that we had was called the Heartless Romantics.
Oh.
And then we changed it to We Throw Cake, all capital letters, no spaces.
We Throw Cake.
Yeah. And you can still find it on, I think it's Pure Volume or Bandcamp. I think it's Bandcamp, actually. It's like wethrowcake.bandcamp.com.
Is Pure Volume still a thing?
I don't know.
At all?
That's why I corrected myself,
Ooh.
because I wasn't too sure.
This would be on Johnny's episode. We talk about Pure Volume also.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had
Maybe
Pure
it's
Volume
coming back.
I had just like a personal one, like check out bands and stuff. But
we talked about how Pure Volume was so good at suggesting bands you'd like.
The algorithm was crazy good.
It was great.
Really good stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
We Throw Cake. What style was this?
Oh, it was like indie. Yeah,
Okay.
it was like indie, kind of like indie folk, a little alternative thrown in there.
Like, what was a good influence, if you were to say?
So the thing is, like, I never wrote any of the songs. They basically came to me and they were like, "But the story of my life. Hey, we wrote these songs. Can you play drums on them?" That's where it all started, So,
but
the songs were. I'm really trying to think of like another band that it sounded like. It sounded like
you might be a perfect person though to describe it, because sometimes whenever I'm like, if it's a band I'm in and I write the majority of stuff, I know my influences, but that might not be what everyone hears.
Yeah, because
right?
I really didn't listen to a lot of that music then.
Really?
That's when I was starting to get into, like, more heavily into, like, what electronic music was becoming.
Right.
Because that all stemmed from video games, too. Like, Need for Speed had great soundtracks growing up.
Yeah.
And that's how I originally found out what drum and bass was playing Need for Speed Underground 2 and going on iTunes and trying to download a song. And there ended up being a B-side on the single that was a drum and bass flip of the song I wanted to download. And I ended up buying the B-side flip rather than the original song because I loved it so much.
That's cool.
But yeah.
We should dive into that here in a second.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Cars and music have just always
been the vehicles.
Literally.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Huh.
So, yeah, but it was like emo, indie, a little Midwest emo-y kind of thing.
Okay.
Little finger picky, and also a little
like
kind of...
Copeland?
Yeah, a little bit of that in there, a little Coldplay, like earlier Coldplay.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. When they
Gives
were...
me an idea.
Yeah.
This is 2000...
This would have been 2000. Man, no, bro. This was like 09.
Or 2000.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm thinking my life. Not yours.
I'm an old young man.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Can I put my shoes up like this?
Of course you can. You can do whatever you want.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, we can blur out things.
You can blur these out?
We can blur out whatever. I said
can you fix it in post?
You can do whatever you want.
Cool.
We can blur out things, whatever you want to blur out.
Awesome. I'm looking at Logan, and he's like, "Don't make me do extra work right now."
He's like, "We're trying to edit any of this." That's awesome. Well, that's so that kind of got you the taste of playing live.
Exactly. That got me on the stage because this was before I had played in church too.
Yeah.
Like I didn't start playing in church till I was about 18, 19 or something like that.
That's interesting.
Well, because I thought like growing up in church, you hear the musicians and they're killer.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would have to like get to a certain level before I even auditioned for anything.
You grew up in this area though. That's why.
Well,
I grew up in a small town and all the musicians weren't so great. So you were up there learning and clunking your way through a worship song, but eventually you got better because and everyone's sitting there going like, "You sound so good," because they don't know any better.
Right. Yeah.
And then you go, "I'm pretty good at this."
Right. I mean, and also if you do something for like 3-4 years, consistently every day, you're just gonna get better at it.
Usually people come along and they'll give you a couple pointers. You go, "Oh, okay."
Totally.
And then you just learn that.
The amount of times that I heard "don't hit so hard."
Yeah. You'd never hear me say that. No. I love how hard you hit.
Well, that's why they still have me in a cage.
Yeah, that's great. So you start.
Yeah. So basically, what happened?
We Throw Cake.
So Nick was older than us, and he went off to college. I think he went to UNT or something like that. But 45-minute drive when you're in high school is like crazy.
Forever.
So I left the band, and they got another drummer, and that's what those recordings are up on the Bandcamp. Got a burp. There it was.
Awesome.
It's the PJs, bro. It's going through me. After I left. That's when I started kind of getting into, okay, I really like playing music. How can I start writing music? Because the way that it would work is, John or Nick would come over and they would like physically play me the songs that they wrote. And I would be like, okay, cool. Or they would and this is an old school way of doing it, they would
me.
post a video of themselves on Facebook and publicly and tag you in it. Because it would
Awesome.
show up on your timeline if you did that. And not many of my friends growing up used Facebook. So as soon as you logged in, it was like the top thing on your timeline, and you'd hit play and then be like, oh, what do you think? He would literally ask me like, James, what do you think of this? Like on a public post.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it was. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
No, that's perfect.
And my dad at the time had a MacBook. And so me coming from the Apple stores kind of previously, I was like, what if there's GarageBand on my dad's MacBook? And there was. And so I was like, oh, junk, this is so cool. And that was senior year of high school. I started kind of dabbling with it. And then once I went to college, I got a MacBook for college stuff. And then part of like this promotional thing that they had going on back in the day was if you bought a MacBook and you had your student ID, you could upgrade one of your softwares for free. So you could either do Aperture, which was the photo editing thing.
Right.
You could do Final Cut, which was the video, or you could do Logic Pro or Logic 9, I think it was at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Logic definitely sounds like the thing that I want to get because, you know, I was into photography a little bit, but it was mostly like film stuff because homeschooled. And then, you know, Final Cut, I wasn't really interested in doing any kind of video things because I tried using Windows Movie Maker growing up and I just was awful at it. Mm-hmm. So Logic was definitely the best choice. And then from that, you got like a free like 6 to 12 months of classes for free once a month. And you could take your MacBook into the Apple store and there'd be a certified person there to like walk you through everything.
That's awesome.
So there was a dude at the Apple store I'd go see and I would sit down for him an hour a month. And he would just walk me through how Logic works. And then from there, it was, I started.
And he taught you really well?
Yeah. I mean, he taught me how, like, he didn't teach me how, like how compression works and, you know, things like that. But it was mostly like how to edit clips, how to use the synthesizer. Right. How to, because, dude, I mean, Logic is very, very deep. You can, I mean, all DAWs are very, very deep, but Logic 9 to a 17, 18-year-old kid is like you're staring at, you know, the face of God kind of thing.
I love that you did that though. That's like such a good resource. Like I have nothing else. Here we go.
It was free too, and I was just
so
like,
good.
I really want to do this.
That's the difference, man. Like some people having kids, I realize that some kids have drive but they hit a brick or they hit a wall or something and they go, well, I guess not.
Yeah.
And then some people go, well, how am I going to get around this?
Right.
And it's crazy when you see someone at a young age figuring it like, I got to get around this.
I just loved making stupid sounds, man.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like, I remember as a kid, one of my favorite toys, you may remember these, they were called Yak Backs.
Yak Backs.
Do you remember Yak Backs? It was basically like, it had a little recorder on it. It had a record button and a play button. And it had like a microphone. You could talk for 4-second clips. And so I'd record myself saying stuff, and then I'd just walk around the house playing it.
That's funny.
It was like my little
I remember a lot of games, a lot of things like that. We had the Talk Boy. Like from Home Alone 2.
Yeah,
I had one of those.
That's rad.
So
the Yak Back was just kind of like a
condensed version of that.
smaller kind of like single player mode.
Yeah,
you know.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
So,
so at that time, you're let's see, you were playing. Sorry, we were talking about Yak Back.
I was still playing drums, but like one of the reasons why I wanted to learn Logic was because I wanted to record drum covers.
Right. Yeah.
So I already had my kit set up, and I was like, okay, I didn't know I need microphones in order to record drum covers. Okay, how do I, you know what I mean? It's just like you have to just go through all of like the hurdles, and then it gets expensive, and like what's an audio interface, and you know you kind of start climbing up that mountain.
Yeah. So that's whenever you start building.
Yeah. And so from there, it was like I would do these drum covers, and the mix was horrible. Like I physically just couldn't mix the drums.
Yeah.
Like it was just so bad. So I ended up just using like audio from the camera and just like putting a compressor on it and calling it a day.
Yeah.
Which didn't sound bad for YouTube at the time.
Right.
But as I was messing around more and more in Logic, I got more and more into synthesis, and then I realized that a lot of the music that I liked listening to back in the like the Need for Speed Underground 2 era of stuff was all made with these synthesized instruments. They weren't made with like, you know, the amen break isn't someone literally just going boop, boop, gap, boop, boop, gap, boop, boop, gap, you know, like that. It's just chopped up samples, you know, from the amen break, but it is chopped up samples. And you know, I started, you know, building on top of some of these songs that I really like doing drum covers of. So, like, something that I did was Pop by NSYNC. It's so much fun to play on the drums. Yeah. That whole Celebrity record is just killer to play on the drums, especially if you speed it up a little bit. Yeah. That's when it gets real fun. But what I would do is I would just kind of, like, add a bass line to it. And then I would export that and, like, put that over my drum cover or something like that. So it would give it some extra, like, beef. Yeah. Because I like the bass a little bit. Right. You know? A little bit. Just a little like the bass. But yeah, it all kind of stemmed from that, and then it was, okay, well, how would I write my own original song? And then
that's whenever you started doing that.
Right, and then 2008, 2009 is when I heard what dubstep was for the first time. Yeah. And I was over at Eric Salvatore's house.
Eric Salvatore!
And we were watching, this was back when, I mean, YouTube came out in 2007. Right? Yeah. I mean, so this was 2008, 2009, so infancy of YouTube, and we're just watching, like, stupid comedy videos and like flash art and stuff like that. And we saw this one video of like dancing to dubstep 001 or something, like, you know, whatever the title was. And it was this dude doing like this popping stuff to what was Excision's 2008 Shambhala mix, which Shambhala is a festival up in like, I think British Columbia or something like that. Okay. And he would, every year that he would play it, he would upload his set to SoundCloud and be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And so the popping dancing stuff was like the first 5-6 minutes of that. And so we were like, what's dancing to dubstep? So we clicked on it, and it's just like this dude doing the robot basically to like this really weird, warbly, like almost sound effects. Right. Like it predated kind of song arrangement. It was mostly just like noises for the first 2-3 minutes. But we both were like, these sounds sound like they're coming from like Unreal Tournament or something like that. Like they just sound crazy. This is like the Doom soundtrack, and this dude's like dancing to it. And from there, I kind of held on to those weird sounds. I was like, I wonder how you make those weird sounds. Yeah. And then I went back on YouTube and started looking up old dubstep songs. I say old dubstep songs now, but dubstep songs currently back then. The current
dubsteps that are now old.
And then I got put on to this label called Sub Soldiers. Okay. And the two heavy hitters on Sub Soldiers back in the day were Caspa and Rusko. And
Caspa and Rusko.
Caspa and Rusko. And Rusko, he has a song called Jehovah. And that was the first dubstep song where I was like, I need to make this kind of music. Yeah. This was the penultimate moment for me. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. It combines some of the reggae-ness of the ska that I listened to growing up. Yeah. It combines the bass of the hip-hop that I really like. And it's one dude doing it, and I'm one dude doing it. So it's this, you know what I mean? It all kind of came together, and then, you know, just tried to figure it all out from there. But it was Jehovah by Rusko. That was the click for me.
Yeah, that's crazy. And how old are you at this time?
This was senior year of high school. Senior year of high school.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's when you heard Jehovah.
Yeah, I was just like, dude, this. I knew that at least the genre had really, really solidified and clicked for me. And then
you're like, this is the avenue now.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was another dude who used to DJ at Lizard Lounge. Rest in peace, Lizard Lounge. Lizard Lounge. Named DJ Titan, and DJ Titan is still a very prominent person in the Dallas scene who goes to a lot of local shows, and he just loves showing up for people. He's got his own DJ school. He teaches kids how to do stuff. He's a super rad guy.
DJ Titan
taught me how to use Tractor back in the day at the Guitar Center off 635. Yeah, went up and bugged him for like an hour and a half about it.
That's awesome. But he put out his own stuff too.
Yeah, so he did some stuff, and then he also had a music blog. And so I looked up on his website, he has a music blog, and the first post that I saw from him was Skrillex's debut EP, the My Name is Skrillex EP. And this was a couple years after he left from First to Last and started doing his own thing.
Sonny, is that his name?
Yeah, Sonny Moore. And I had listened to From First to Last because Eric Salvatore.
Eric Salvatore!
I'm telling you, man.
This dude.
Yeah, dude. So
One
from
day I'm
first to
gonna
last,
meet him. It's gonna be
oh
great.
yeah, you guys would kick it off.
Yeah.
So rad. But yeah. So he had some from first to last on my iPod, so I knew the voice, of Sonny and everything.
Right.
And that My Name Is Skrillex EP was like the most listened to thing on my iPod that year. This was 2009, 2010.
My Name Is Skrillex. What was the big song off of that?
So this was
For
pre
you.
Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, because
Yeah.
a lot of people know that one from.
Right.
It was in a lot of like GoPro commercials and stuff like that too. But Weekends,
and
it's featuring Cy Ra.
okay.
And that song, there was this trend in electronic music of 110 BPM, like back around that era. It was called Moombacore. It's Moombaton, but it was electronic, so it was
Yeah.
Moombacore. And that has since kind of dwindled a bit. A few people still make it and experiment with it, but it's a little, it's been cast away a little bit.
Can I take a weird time out?
Totally.
Because this is a part of the music world I don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
Right? I think we've even had a conversation once before about different kinds of EDM.
Totally.
And Moombacore would be a certain sect of this, right?
Yes.
And you don't have to explain it because I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of different versions of this. But yours, the kind that you're in, Millennial Trash, what would that necessarily be? Is that bass?
So, and this is where it gets a little confusing. I classify myself as an electronic dance music producer.
Okay.
Because I tap into a lot of different genres.
And that's what I thought too.
I don't really want to pigeonhole myself into one thing.
Perfect.
Just because, like, if you do, then that's who you are kind of in the
Right.
scene. And if you branch out from that, you get backlash for it. And it's
Right.
so dumb. But
Cool.
that's just the
So
way it is.
You could just EDM and you're
EDM.
good.
Yeah, that's the umbrella term. And it's
That's
totally
cool.
fine. Yeah.
All right. I don't have to use
Just don't
anything
call
else.
everything techno and you're fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because I've probably done that too. No. Okay, so you're at this point where you're like, I am learning, I'm building these tools to be able to build this. When's the first time because you weren't always Millennial Trash.
No.
You were before this.
Reflect with a K. Yeah,
right.
Reflect with a K.
And I think even maybe when we met, were you doing it under that?
Yeah, so I rebranded in January of 2020, right before the panty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right when we met.
Yeah.
Pre-panty.
Yeah.
And before Reflect, had you put out anything before that?
No. Reflect was the first moniker, and I used that for, let's see. I had the first thing that I did. It was called the Master Commander EP, which I had like a bunch of Olin Rogers samples in it, and a couple. It was much more like YouTube-y and memey because that was kind of the trend was build, trendy vocal line drop, and so that's kind of was the formula.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of that, and then my second
that used to be a formula that you would do.
Yeah, I mean there was an SNL skit about it.
Oh, interesting.
Remember when will the bass drop?
That's
when will
right.
The bass drop?
I remember
and they just
that.
kept building it over and over.
Yeah,
that was the bit.
I think that's amazing. Huh.
Yeah.
And you would just do it.
Well, yeah, because it was the formula to do. Like I remember when there was
I didn't know you would do it on purpose. Like just thought.
Yeah, because that's what the people making dubstep would do. Except for like the dudes on like Sub Soldiers and the more like UK based people, they just kind of had their own sound. But the American dubstep stuff, they would have some sort of Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites esque, it is, oh my god, just have something huge. But yeah, so where were we? We were talking.
You started creating, and you put it out. Your first stuff
Yeah.
Reflect.
So there was an EP. Then my second thing I ever put out was a full length album. It was like 14 tracks or 11 or 14 tracks or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was not finished when I put it out. I just wanted to put it out because I didn't really care at the time.
Up at this point, had you played live with this stuff yet?
So the first big, I say big, but like I had played I played a show at the Door under Reflect to like 7 people, little things like that.
But were you pumped when you did it?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I didn't even have decks up there. I had my MIDI controller and my laptop,
awesome.
and that's all. That was just it. I just played like string patches over dubstep, and
That's got to be a whole different thing than playing with a band.
Oh, totally. I honestly just wanted to hear some of the music through a system.
Really?
Like,
You're
I just
like,
wanted
"This
to get
is
on
for
stage, and I was
me."
like, "You remember the sub at the door? It was the size of me.
Oh, that's right.
That thing's like
That's
It's like an
right.
elephant, bro. I wanted
That's
to hear
right.
some Skrillex coming through that thing. That thing was
That's
crazy.
awesome.
But yeah, so from there it was when I released the second album. I got to play a show at the House of Blues because they had a Battle of the Bands-esque thing where if you entered in to this deal and you sold a certain amount of tickets, you could play not the main room. What's
Foundation room, Cambridge room.
Cambridge room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the mid-size room. It's like 400 people or something like that.
Yeah, that's a cool room.
And dude, I told everybody at church, everybody at co-op, like every single person I knew, all the kids at the skate park I skated with, like, please buy, like, tickets were like $10. I was like, please just come to the show. And I ended up selling the most tickets out of all the bands.
Heck yeah.
And I was the only DJ there, and the rest of them were all bands. I still don't understand how, but because I sold like 60 tickets.
I do, because I've been a part of those things, and I didn't want to sell any tickets.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this was like in my head I was like, this is it. Like, if I do this.
I've also been where you were there too, and like we gotta sell all the tickets, right? Yeah. I've just done enough of them where I got to the point where I didn't
totally
want to sell any of
understand.
the tickets.
Yeah. Well, I'm there now. I understand. Yeah. So yeah, I did that, and then because I sold the most, they let me pick my time slot, and of course I picked last.
Yeah.
So I had to get to the House of Blues at like 9 a.m. for sound check, and I didn't play till 9:15 p.m.
That's so cool.
And it was on a Sunday night.
And you had the least to set up.
Yeah. I walked
awesome.
up there. I had
it's like, we backlining this?
Yeah. So at the time, I had a little like 2-channel mixer.
Yeah.
And my laptop and a tractor setup, and I had like a 20-minute set, and had people come up to me after the show, and they were like, "That was really, really cool. Like, will you do my daughter's quinceañera?" And like all this stuff, and just like, no,
No,
not that
I don't play for Elise no more.
It's just like this. The reason why I'm here is because this is fun for me, and it's like doing that kind of stuff is like an easy way to make like a couple $100, but it's not.
It's
fun.
not why you're
it's
doing
not
it.
why I'm doing it. I just want to make weird sounds.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
So you put out that second record with Reflect.
Yeah, and then a couple other EPs. I did another EP when I went to college. When I went to DFW.
What are your influences while you're making Reflect? Like what's
so
you're
Reflect,
all over the place. I get it.
Yeah,
you're. I feel like your style of music is like the most Blender-esque version.
Yeah.
Of, because like you listen to my band Ravenhill, you can go, oh, he's probably listening to Tom Petty mixed with like the Ramones mixed with this or that.
Totally.
You probably hear hints of that, and you can hear that in your music. But I feel like you hear like 100 different things.
Sure. Yeah, because I mean, I've always joked that EDM is ADHD music. That's just all it is. It's just how many different attention
more
things
information
can you
in
put
the same amount of time.
Right. Exactly. It's just like reading like it's like reading a book that you got used that's already had notes taken in it.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? It's not that it gives you all the answers.
You go, well,
it just gives you more insights.
Yeah.
It's
like interesting.
That's kind of how I think of it.
So when you're building that song, that's how you're kind of building it too.
Yeah, and like something that I was mentioning to Eric earlier too is kind of like how you arrange it is kind of like you have to view it kind of like a 3, 4, 5 course meal where you want everything to complement each other throughout the courses.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want each thing to taste different and have its own unique flavor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, we're going to have to one day have you come and break a song apart.
Dude,
like
I'll
that.
do a session with you.
Yeah.
Like, let's freaking do it.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, like, the idea, the way I would write a song, the way you write a song has to be completely different.
I'm working on a song right now. It's 148 channels.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I know.
It's
I don't know
pain.
if mine's ever been more than 8.
It takes 30% of my CPU just to have the session open.
It's amazing. So you become Millennial Trash. When do you rebrand?
Yeah, so my sound started changing a little bit around like 2018, 2019, because that's when I jokingly say I got good. But I understood how synthesis worked more.
Right.
Because when you first start playing guitar, you plug your guitar into the Boss pedal station at Guitar Center. You're just like, you turn everything on. You just make music soup, and it's crazy cool. And but you want to like kind of cherry pick what you want and kind of refine your tone. And that's kind of what happened to me was I latched onto this kind of UK-esque sound that I kind of first started listening to because a lot of dubstep that happened from like 2013 to 2016, 2017 was mostly focused on. I mean, the scene was in a depression basically, or a recession, I should say,
Right.
not a depression, but it just wasn't as poppin' as it is now or as it was then.
What were the big names in the UK? Dubstep?
So Rusko still. Rusko is one of just like the original Dons that kind of just brought that beautiful UK sound and really pushed it out. Trying to think who else, like Jake's. Jake's is one of the original guys too. He had
Is that just JAKES?
Yeah, he had a label called Hench Recordings.
Okay.
Which is now back in action, which I'm super
cool.
freaking pumped about. We had the guys over at Circus Records, so Dr. P, Flux Pavilion. Flux Pavilion's a pretty big name. He's done a lot of stuff like around, even like commercial stuff. Funt Case, who I've gotten to do a remix for. He's a super rad guy, also named James. Really
nice.
Cool. Cookie Monster, rest in peace. He was also one of the absolute greatest.
I've heard of Cookie Monster. Why have I heard of Cookie Monster?
Because he was big, dude. Yeah, it was those
some
four
of these
dudes,
names
Dr. P, Flux Pavilion,
I've heard some of these names,
Cookie.
and I probably have heard some of their songs.
Yeah, Scream is also a big one. Scream with a K.
Okay.
Little nod to Scream and the Reflect name there. A little bit.
Yeah, with a K.
Yeah, so
when you became Millennial Trash, this is because you're being influenced by this UK style.
I just knew that I had to change my name, and I wanted it to be something memorable and dumb.
Okay.
So as the sound was evolving,
I think it's a great name.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
When people hear it, it just makes them laugh, and it's like my name on Xbox Live and everything too, and people just kind of get a kick out of it.
That's great.
Because I also feel like I'm not a very good millennial because I'm a '92 kid, so I'm like on the weird cusp of being Gen Z.
Yeah,
but also
I feel you. I'm in there too.
I still have that weird millennialness to me, but at the same time, like all of my humor is based in Gen Z and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So yeah, I just thought the name was funny, and then the sound was evolving, and I made like 2 or 3 tracks that had a very similar kind of UK vibe to them, and I knew that I was like, okay, this is a good launching point to doing something more, and that's when I just did the rebrand.
That's awesome. And so, what do you got going on now?
Dude, so got a couple shows coming up.
Yeah.
I'm playing Austin and Houston, really for the first time. I've been to Houston a couple times for my friends' shows, and they've brought me out on stage, and it's all been super dope. But this is going to be the first time that I'll be getting to play Austin, period, as Millennial Trash,
cool.
which is super dope. And in Houston...
I love Austin, by the way.
Dude, I got a couple homies down there that are going to come out. It's going to be a blast. I haven't
When's
seen them in a
this? I mean, I don't know if this will be out by then.
So Austin is going to be April 28th. I don't remember the venue.
No, that's all right.
But if you look on my Instagram at Millennial TRSH, no A.
Yeah.
And Millennial is 2 L's, 2 N's, you would be surprised how many of my demographic cannot spell.
Millennial's a tough one, dude.
It is.
A lot of eyes and E's.
I wasn't thinking about it.
A lot of eyes and E's.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. No, I know how to spell it now.
There you go.
So.
You are a millennial, aren't you? You're not Gen X.
I don't know. I'm in the middle, too. I'm 80. I'm 42 years old.
Oh, yeah, you're 80. So yeah, you're in that weird cuspiness, too. Yeah.
It's like one of those things where I grew up with technology, but without it, too. Plus, I don't know. I don't feel very old either. It feels like...
Well, you don't look very old.
Thanks.
No problem.
Cool.
That's what I'm here for.
Thanks. Man, I've really enjoyed listening to your music today.
Thanks, dude.
I was listening to
what'd you check out?
Your top songs. I just went
cool.
through and I just hit play and listened to it all day, dude.
Sick.
And I was trying to think about what you could tell whenever you're telling your story. You can tell that, what was the big word you used?
Homologate.
Homologate. You can tell that your music's out.
Oh wow, thanks.
Like you've taken everything.
I really appreciate that.
Really?
Yeah.
You can tell that you've taken everything. Even the one road that we took all the way through your life just now.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a lot of that in what I listened to today.
Thanks.
And there's something nostalgic about it, but there's also something like I'm here right now too. There's also, I don't know. I feel like we could do this again and go a whole nother road and hear even more.
I can tell you the story how I had to explain to my parents why I was on a website called happyhardcore.com in 7th grade.
This is great. Go for it.
So there's a genre of music called happy hardcore, and it's very Japanese. If that makes you remember Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just think about that, but like 180 BPM.
Perfect.
So it's just, boom, 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 like crazy distorted synth leads and all that other stuff.
Yes.
And happyhardcore.net used to just be the website that you would go to stream it, because you would just stream the radio station that was that. And, obviously my parents looked at the search history because you're in middle school.
Right.
And, I had to be like, oh, no, that's a genre of music. And I went to it, and they QC'd it, and everything was great.
I see why it would be rough for your kid.
Yeah,
like, hey,
dude,
you got some explaining to do, dude. Hey, man.
So, yeah,
we
there's
taught you better
just stuff
that.
like that. And then, all the while I was listening to metalcore, and like in high school I got more into hardcore and went to like hardcore shows, local shows and stuff like that. I was also always listening to drum and bass and like old club music. I shouldn't say like super old, but Scarf with a exclamation mark. They were pretty formidable and earlier in my life. Tiesto, even like old school Tiesto tracks. He ended up doing, I think, the theme song for like the 2000 Olympic Games or something crazy
really?
like that. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's really cool. And he, back when he was writing like 13-minute trance songs and stuff like that, like I was just like, oh my God, this is so crazy. it takes you on a journey and stuff,
What do you, when you look at the next several years in closing, what do you see you doing? Like, do you have a plan? Do you kind of...
So, like...
I know real quick, I know sometimes we're letting art just take us where we're going.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes that's a fun thing to do.
Right.
Sometimes we kind of have an idea where we're going.
Right.
Where are you at there?
So, right now, I'm writing music for video games.
That's rad.
Yeah, it's super fun. And
that's what got you kind of into this, right?
Yeah, it's full circle, dude. I'm telling you. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
So I'm doing that right now.
Look at you. If you could go back to your kid self and go like, hey, dude, guess what you get paid to do?
You kidding me right now?
Yeah.
It's just stupid. I probably wouldn't believe it, honestly.
Yeah. You give yourself a high five. You go, okay, go get that money.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a couple other contracts coming up later this year with the folks that I'm working with, Native Darkness Productions. Shout out Native Darkness Productions.
Yeah.
And,
Native Darkness Productions!
So been working with them for a little bit now, and it's been going absolutely fantastic. But the cool thing is I have some friends in the dubstep scene that are ludicrously more popular than me. Mm-hmm. And anytime that I want feedback on one of my songs, or if I would like it to be played out at like a show or something like that, I usually just send it to them because they're touring and stuff like that, and then they'll just crowd test it for me.
Heck yeah.
Which is great because I'm fortunate enough to have some cool friends in the scene that I've just made along the years.
He's like 1,000 people in Baltimore love it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's literally what happens. Yeah. It's so funny.
Hey,
but that's
Baltimore
kind of my
approved.
That's like my litmus test right now. And so like these upcoming shows that I have, like I said, Austin, and then I'm playing in Dallas on May 13th.
Rad.
Since you haven't been to a show.
Yeah, man. That's what
and I think it's like an earlier one, so it's not going to be killer late. So there's that one, and then the Houston one's in June. I'm hoping that, in the EDM scene, you kind of have to have like a booking agent and stuff like that see you play before they want to take. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles.
Right.
And so I'm hoping something comes from these 3 shows. But at the same time, I get to open up for one of my best friends in the scene who we became friends when he was in high school. I played a show at his church and opened up with the VeggieTales theme song and did like a transition into a dubstep thing. It was that moment like we just became friends. His name's Eric. He goes by Ace Aura
Ace Aura.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
You have a song with him.
I do. It's the number one song. It's called Nod.
Nod.
Yeah,
That's right. That song's rad, dude.
Yeah. So I had written.
God, I should have remembered that.
I had written a good bit of it, and this was in like 2017 or 2018, and then the song kind of sat on the shelf for a little bit because it just wasn't finished, and he really liked that song, and so I was like, dude, could you help me finish this thing? Like, we can wrap this up, put a bow on it, and ship it out. And he was totally down. So, it came together super rad because our styles are. I'm more of the UK sound, and he's more of this newer genre called color bass.
Okay.
Which is very. It's very jazzy. Very. There's a whole lot of chord stacks that are very percussive and rhythmic on top of it. It's really rad stuff, but we found a good way to kind of sync those two things together, and it came out pretty cool. But yeah, he's the dude that I'm going to be opening up for, and he's hit the big time, super stoked.
That's great.
And he's taking us along for the ride, man.
Cool. Well, we'll play that song at the end of this for sure.
Dude. Sounds good.
Hey, thanks for being here. Do you want to? Did we already plug all your social media?
Yeah, so follow me on social media. It's Millennial Trash, and there's no A in trash because, believe it or not, they were all taken on every platform.
That's crazy.
It
took all those A's.
Yeah. But
they didn't have any more A's.
But that's it. Follow me on Spotify if you want to. Follow me on SoundCloud. You know, all the various band places and whatnot. You can just find me there.
There'll be links in this, the show notes for this too.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Of course.
And we're gonna have you back, and you're gonna break apart.
Dude, I'm so down.
One of your songs, because to me, we've only scratched the surface now.
Totally.
Now you gotta teach us how.
I want to show you how it works because I have a feeling if I show you how it works, you're going to go home and you're going to start messing with stuff.
I can't be obsessed with anything else.
No, you don't need another obsession. You just need to have a little taste.
Oh, Jesus. I think that's the logical next step.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Even when the music stops.